Hello and welcome. My name is Vanessa Ortali. I am the founder of the Ladies Community and Heart and Mind Talks. And today we're going to take a little bit of a different angle for our interview for the One Summit. And the theme of the summit is one with purpose, one with self, one with others. And I am bringing to you Rachelle Saevil. Welcome, Rachelle. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yay.
Rachelle, yeah, right. We're going to have fun. Rachelle's a brand expert. So we are going to, how we're going to tie this to the summit is we're going to talk about how do you take your connection to purpose and connection to self, turn that into a brand, and then how do you connect your brand to a website and to your community to really impact and serve others. And we're going to talk about business strategies for small businesses and the common mistakes people make when executing their brand and connecting with their community. So we're going to bring in it all at you today.
Holy
So you
moly.
can add, right? Then that way you'll be able to walk away with something more. And obviously, if you have further questions, reach out to Rachelle. She's your girl. But welcome. Thank you for being here all the way
Yeah,
from
thank you so
down
much.
and
Down
chatting.
under.
Right?
Yeah.
So good. Thank you. So tell me, let's start a little bit more about what do you do? I know you have your own company right now,
hmm
Saevil Row.
hmm
So what do you do within that company and how do you help businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we build beautiful brands and websites for small businesses. So I feel in that sense it's quite spotlight there in terms of really helping business owners execute their ideas. We're basically taking your brilliant ideas, we turn them into some magic, and then we have a beautiful brand or a website after that. Now, we work with a lot of lifestyle brands as well. So, what that looks like is brands in the fashion, fitness, beauty, health space, which is such a fun space to be in as well. And it's one that I feel really connected to. So I feel that I can always add a little bit extra when we're really diving into, the strategy of a business and things like that. So in a nutshell, that's essentially what we do over here is we take
So
beautiful
fun.
ideas and turn them into something extraordinary.
I love that. And now the entrepreneur landscape is changing so much. You must get a lot of influencers as well within this small business space that are looking to expand their services and their business portfolio.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, with any business, what you really want to do is hone in on your target market, who you want to be targeting and who you want to be working with. So while we have people of all types of businesses and areas approach us to do work, we also have to look back at, is this serving us with the type of work that we do? And is this going back to our ideal audience? So there's a lot of no's that we have to say just because it's not aligned with what we offer. But for the influencers or for the small businesses, the very small businesses that are ready to make the leap and invest in branding and the whole process, yeah, definitely. Personal brands are massive in this space. Not only do we build businesses, we also build personal brands. So
Yeah.
depending if you are a coach or, like you said, an influencer, and you're really trying to make a name for yourself and have that cohesive experience across the board, that's certainly something that we do and really kind of work with. I love that we work with founding teams. Sounds so, exclusive in that sense, but we're not dealing with anyone else in as a middle person. We get to really work with the founder and get their, like I said, ideas and their thoughts, get them involved. And I love to think of it as a collaborative process so that everyone, you get heard, you're seen, and we get to bring what you want to the table and have you involved every step of the way instead of
Yeah.
creating something and being like, here you go.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. What are the biggest challenges people are facing right now in this world where they're being marketed to all the time? I think branding is more important now than ever, but I also think there's a lot of confusion around the topic.
Yeah, there is a lot of confusion. And I think a lot of that also has to do with there's so many terminologies thrown around that people are like, oh, I just want a logo, but then it has to like really be a brand, but then it has to do this. And I'm like, okay, let's just go back to basics for a second. Let me just explain to you what this is. But I think that's really confusing. And the thing is that now, especially with social media, is everyone everyone is influencing decisions and thoughts, and everyone has the ability to do that. Some make a business out of it, some don't. And I think what's really tough is standing out in the crowd, and it's so much more about what do you stand for and what do you want to be known for versus anything else. I think in that sense, that's really where the branding process comes from, and it's really rich in foundation when you can go back to what's the problem you're solving, or who are you trying to help, and what are your values, what makes you different and what makes you stand out. And the people who miss that step, that's often where we're seeing things down the road that we're like, oh, okay, now we kind of need to catch up, you know? We also see people who might have started a brand, you know, on their own, and I'm all about that. I'm always like, come to us if you're ready to invest from day one, or you're ready to invest, you know, in 3 to 5 years, because we can really help, you know, catapult the brand to that next level. But what we see is that people oftentimes didn't spend enough time in that foundational stage at the beginning. So then they're kind of coming back and they're like, I just don't feel connected to this brand anymore. I don't know what this is and I don't know what to do. And in fact, there's been a few businesses that we've saved from throwing in the towel with a simple rebrand. I say simple, like it's the easiest thing, but you know, in that sense, that's all it took was a different lens at looking at their business and their brand to really reignite that passion again. And so if you can spend more time really in that foundational stage, and even if that is something you're doing on your own, by again reassessing who your target is, figuring out what your values are. You should have like 3 to 5 values that you do not waver from. And that's sort of your guiding light and your principles when you're doing any, you know, content marketing and things like that. It all relates back to your values.
What are the strongest brands and what do they have in common?
Strongest brands is a loaded question because I think
Yeah,
a lot of brands do that we know of. We obviously know of them because they've done this really well. I'll share with you one of my favorite brands, and I'm going to take you through their journey, and I think you'll understand why they're so
cool.
successful and what makes them a strong brand. I love Aesop. So that is one of my favorite brands ever. You go into their stores and everything is just meticulously neat and all the products are beautifully packaged. It's so simple, but their color scheme and everything is just so cohesive. So you go into a store in London and you go into a store in New York and they'll be somewhat different, but they'll all have that same feel. The other thing is you can smell one of their products and you're like, oh, this is so Aesop. You know, it's just one of those things that the brand takes you on a journey wherever you are. And whether that's sitting at home and putting on their hand cream, using any of their, excuse me, any of their, you know, body products or face products, it all has that very earthy scent, beautiful, beautiful earthy scent. So it just takes you somewhere. It makes you just feel that you're related to the brand. And that's what a successful brand does. It is top of mind and it makes you think of them when you're not there. So you could walk into a room, or you can walk into even Le Labo does this really well with their scents. And you can smell something and you're like, oh, that smells like that Le Labo scent, or oh, that smells like that Aesop store. So that's sort of what I can really resonate with in terms of a strong brand, is it makes you think about them when they're not there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you piece together? So I also feel like there's this gap where I love the questions that you asked of, what problem are you solving and who is your target and what does that look like? Like how are you differentiating yourself? But then what? Like I feel like there's this gap between knowing what they want to do and then translating that brand and actually connecting with their community.
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of one of two things. I think once you've really established the foundation of who the brand is, that's sort of where you need to bring it together visually. Now, again, whether you're DIYing this yourself or you're hiring someone to do this, that's essentially where the briefing process would come in. You know, if you were hiring someone, they would have their process, an internal strategy or a questionnaire or whatnot to get everything, all those feelings and the essence of the brand, they would get that and be able to translate that into the vision that they're creating for your brand. If you're DIYing this, you have to really think, how do I want the brand to feel? How can I convey that? and portray that. Now, there's a whole color theory in terms of the colors that you choose for your brand, and nothing a small little Google search wouldn't, stop you from, again, if you are DIYing this for yourself. You want to choose colors and fonts that bring through the feeling that you want from the brand. And this is important because this is how you set up that continuity that you can then have throughout all your channels and have that really strong social presence. And so, for example, if you are, let me use a florist for an example. You're a florist that focuses primarily on, weddings and events and, that kind of thing. So you're doing smaller boutique weddings and smaller boutique events. You can't handle a 3-person wedding. You do more intimate things. So right there, we want to look at welcoming, intimate, maybe feminine. Maybe those are like 3 sort of brand principles that we want to add to that brand. Because you deal with a lot of smaller intimate events, you want to be very personable in your approach as well. So colors like that would be more blush tones. So they'd be softer colors because the softer palette is more inviting and it's more inspiring. You wouldn't want to go like a bright pink or a bright purple. You'd want something that's a lot more soothing. So in that sense, I feel that, again, you're relating these colors to the emotions that we want people to feel when they connect with your brand. And then you take that to the next step. So again, with fonts, you're going to want to have something really simple. Maybe you have a cursive in it, maybe you don't. And if you're DIYing this, Canva is an amazing resource to be able to do that in. So find some great fonts in Canva, do up your logo, and that's sort of your brand. That's kind of your brand. You're getting the branding process done. With those colors, choose 5 strong colors. They should all be complementary. Again, you just want to make sure that when someone looks at them, they feel relaxed, they feel soothed and inviting and that kind of thing, because those are the principles that we essentially want to bring forward for the brand. Now from there, and once you have those things done, you're able to then use them, those become your exclusive colors that you use on your website and in your mail list and in your Instagram. And those become your brand style essentially. And so I think in that sense, that's really where you can utilize that as continuity and consistency across the channels. And it becomes a pillar of what your brand stands for and another layer of how you can be recognized when you're not there as a brand yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What role does verbiage, copywriting, messaging, how does that now play
Yeah,
into communication?
definitely a huge part. So while we focus a lot on the visual side here at Saevil Row, we also really lean on that verbiage, and that goes into tone of voice and the words that you use and how you communicate. So again, if we go back to the florist example, they would be using words like inspiring, uplifting, beautiful. They wouldn't use words like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of something on the spot. They wouldn't use words that would be cold, uninviting,
Mhm.
condescending.
Yeah.
You know what? My biggest thing is, and I've seen some small businesses do this, and I cringe when they do, because I don't feel like this fits in with anyone's tone of voice. When you're creating a tone of voice, obviously you're trying to connect, again, you're trying to connect with that ideal audience that you have established in the foundation side of things. But it's conversational when you're using, social media. So you would never be condescending in the sense of saying did you know and providing them a fact is one thing, but being like, obviously we would never do a wedding with peonies, right? You would never say that.
I
And I've
love
seen so
peonies.
many brands. I love peonies. I
You're
feel like
right?
there's peonies in everything, but so many brands talk to their audience as if the audience doesn't know, or as if the brand is too authoritative to be like, well, obviously this happens first and then this happens second. Don't ever assume that people know, because I think that's the biggest disconnect with connecting with your audience. You're there to either educate or inspire or, show them into your world. And I've seen a lot of brands, it's such a simple thing and you wouldn't even think about it, but the language that they use is opposite to how you should be communicating with them.
Yeah.
So going back to tone of voice, yeah, it's so important because you want to be careful that the words you're using match and those brand values that you have. So you would want to make sure that the language and the verbiage and, you know, the copywriting across your platforms and across your brand, again, are cohesive and consistent. That if you picked up my brand, you'd be like, oh, Saevil Row would definitely say this, you know? And I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing, is that you're never going to be able to run, you know, especially if you're building a team, you're not going to be able to do all this on your own. And someone's going to need to step in and write your Instagram captions for you, or write this email for you, and it needs to have that same voice. So if you're a brand that's like, hey girl, did you hear that this happened? Then cool. That just needs to be across everything, and everything needs to be like that. Not like, hello there, have you heard about this? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely, it starts to make sense, and you'll start to pay attention to this as you see more and more brands on social. And I think if you can take inspiration from your favorite accounts or your favorite brands, that's a perfect opportunity to lean into what other people are how they're positioning their brands.
What I'd love for you to use Saevil Row as an example, because you've also been able to build a really successful business and following and community with your brand. What are the core values and pillars that you make sure that you stand by and communicate when sharing your brand and who you are to the world?
Mm, yeah, that's a great question. For us, our pillars of what we do are creativity, integrity, flexibility. And what that looks like for us is that, I mean, integrity is such a massive thing for what we do, and it's massive for all of our client relationships. And so we really, really try to nurture, you know, the relationships, and we really try and be personable in that sense. And that's what we try and do online as well. And I think, you know, that goes into just responding to comments, maybe sending a voice note or a video to people who engage with us, and doing something special. I'm also, as a person, someone who always sends birthday cards or will send little gifts to friends and little like thinking of you type things. So I would also want my brand to reflect that, because I feel that that's really special. When it comes to the creativity side of things, that's sort of where we put a lot of pride in the work that we do. And we're always pushing the bar. So, you know, the first round is never good enough. It's always kind of, well, we're not striving for perfection by any means, but I always think that we're trying to constantly look at the work that we're doing and thinking, how can we challenge that? How can we do better? What, you know, it's not just like, cool, that's the first logo, let's just send that off. We're always diving into how can we show up best creatively, and what does that look like even on social. So that could mean even using, what is it called, Storylux. I love Storylux for, or
Hmm.
Unfold for Insta stories. So it's taking that creativity an extra step further, instead of, look, I haven't done it in a long time, but I do find that that's sort of when I feel the most creative, because it's another creative outlet, essentially, you know, having Instagram and social media. And then in terms of flexibility, again, it's adapting to what the clients want, not being stuck in our own ways, but then also flexibility internally, working from home, working remote, getting to, you know, pick up halfway, whatever ignites that creativity. If that's taking a break during the day and going for a long walk, or coming back to it later, it's having the flexibility to work freely and to just really call in those creative ideas. So I
Yeah.
feel in that sense, really honing in on those principles for our brand has really been essential, because it's really been, that's really shown through our work. On the social side of things, I have a different approach to this. So you're not going to come to the Saevil Row Instagram account and see a running feed of our work. We have a website, a beautifully designed website that showcases that. So if you want to learn more about us, go there. What I utilize the platform for is more of that connection aspect, and more of like an inside look into running a studio, but also me. I'm always going to be the one in the front of the brand, regardless of the fact if I have a team or not. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that, again, people are coming to have that touch point with me, and I've established that through what I've done on social. So this is especially important with those personal brands, is because you're showing people a side of you that, I mean, is obviously authentic, but it's one that they're obviously relating to and they're connecting to as well. And once you have built that connection and built that trust, that's where you build the business and the success. So you need to have that trust and you need to have that connection before you have anything else. So you might look at another design agency and all you see is their work and you don't see any human elements to it, and you don't know who you're going to get on the other end. And believe me, this is something I feel like I still sort of struggle with this, because I feel sometimes I'm like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? But guess what? There are no rules with Instagram. Don't piss them off, don't do anything that is against their code, but there's no rules as to how you should or shouldn't show up as a brand. And so I feel that at the end of the day, you just need to do what feels naturally and what you feel most comfortable in doing. And for me, I also really enjoy that platform to be able to connect with people. And so by showing up more as Rachelle, the individual that happens to run a business, is a really great way for me to call in new business and call in those connections.
So do you recommend people have their own Instagram separate from their business or the same, like you've done?
It's so tough, and I feel that that's kind of a call you need to make on what you do personally. For me, I had the account for quite some time. I guess I was like an early adopter to Instagram. I couldn't even tell you, like, the first or second year that it came out, when people were allowed to have it. Well, when it was first kind of out of beta testing, I had an account. So I couldn't even tell you, like, dating back like 7 years, at least 7, 8 years, which is a long time,
Yeah.
very long time. And so when I had the account, I was living in Toronto, and it was just like, if you scrolled back, I have all those photos there. It's like very much an account you would see just like your best friend who just has a personal account. It is just me with friends and doing things, and it's very much not business related at all. And I had moved to Paris in 2014, I think. I lived there for 2 years, and that's where I started the business. And that's also where I just started having just different, creative outlooks on things, and different points of views. And I built up the account to what it is now. And I think there's maybe, I don't know, almost like 20,000 followers.
Hmm.
But a lot of that was from my Paris journey. And so while it was, beautiful architecture and coffee shops and doing those types of things, I also felt that it was really relevant to the brand, because the brand obviously was born in Paris and it has that European Parisian kind of feel to it. And so that, like, really deep femininity and that kind of thing. And so I kind of just kept it. I just kept it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna run with this. There were definitely times where I thought about separating them, but to be honest, I cannot be fussed managing more than one account. So for me, I can do both, but I'm also, again, like I said, as much as I am a personal brand running a business, it fits. If you're a product, I don't think you should have two. I think you need to have two separate ones. If you're a coach, one, definitely, because people are connecting with you. There's not a lot of service-based businesses that can't have one account. I think it's only really product-based.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think if there's any examples. Any personal brand that I think of, that's what you're selling, and so that's why you only need one. I
Yeah.
would say, yeah, I think I would stand by the product aspect. If you're selling
Neat.
iPhone cases, you want to just
Yeah.
have an iPhone case page.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I want to stick to this personal theme. As an
Hmm.
entrepreneur, what have been some of your greatest challenges building your business?
How much time do we have?
Yeah, I know, right?
I know. Look, there's a lot of challenges building the business from a resource perspective and a team perspective. I mean, I know you asked for more of the personal side of building a brand. I think it's staying in your own lane that I think is the biggest one, because there are so many other people doing, maybe similar things, different things that are, you think that they're similar. And there's so many other ideas and thoughts that aren't our own that are swimming around, and it's just so tough to stay in your own lane and focus on what you're really bringing people. I think the biggest thing that you can do, and when someone asks you, oh, well, what makes you different from so and so who does the same thing? All you simply have to say is, I am me, and that is what makes me different, because how you do business is going to be so different than how someone else does business. And I have friends who are friends and colleagues who run design businesses. And in fact, we call on each other and lean on each other in times of, we have questions or issues and things like that. And I don't feel any sense of competition, because I also know how they run their business, and I'm like, oh, I maybe wouldn't have done that, or oh, that's really cool that you do that. That doesn't fit with me, but that's cool that you do. And so I feel like, if anything, it's just really honing it in again to those foundational values of what ignites the business from that perspective, and how can you stay true to that every day. And so
Yeah.
if there's anything, even if it's having those values written down by your computer every day and you read them like a mantra, that's what makes you different. And that's what's going to make you stand out. How you try and differentiate your offerings, and how you deal with your clients and things like that, is going to be the number one thing that makes you unique.
And I think that brings it full circle too, because I feel like if you haven't done the branding work in the beginning and you don't know your values, you don't know what makes you different, you get shaken a lot easier when you put out a brand
100%.
and then you see everything and you're like, oh, I don't know, should I do that? But if you've done the work like you suggested, and when working with someone like you, then you're a little bit more solid and more confident in
Mm,
what you put out there.
100%. And it all goes back to the foundational aspect of
Yeah.
things. If you don't have that, and if you're not clear, and look, if you're not clear at the moment and you're sitting there being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, it's so easy to get back on track. It just takes some time to really assess that, because anytime that I've ever thought of wavering, of being like, oh, that's so cool, like, oh, I wish I could do something like that, I'm like, no, wait, that is not what I do. And so, even to give you an example, website templates. I get asked all the time for website templates. Oh, can you design me a site that looks exactly like this person? Or can you do that? And at first I was like, do I need to be doing this, or do I need to be doing an online course? Online, I'm going to use the online course as a bit of an example, because that's a bit better actually suited to me. I used to think, everyone else is doing courses, I have to do a course. I have to do a course on branding, and I need to do like a DIY your own brand. That's the course. Like, I just have to. And it was coming from a place that was so not authentic at all. So I would sit in front of my computer and I would try to write this course, and it was not coming to me because it was not aligned with who the brand is and the clients that we serve. And now Saevil Row is a luxury branding studio. So we do a lot of bespoke business, and we deal, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, either with businesses who are ready to invest from day one, or who are ready to invest in a rebrand 3 to 5 years out if they've DIY'd their brand and now they're ready to take that to the next level. My type of clients would not do a DIY service from me if it was a course. They're looking for a done for you solution, not a do it myself kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so once I clicked into that, I was like, oh my gosh, I offer premium services. I'd be devaluing my brand if I offered a $99 do it yourself branding course, when I charge, so like, the investment for a brand and the process and everything that goes into it is so much more than that. Also, if I'm telling you that I value brand, and that's like what the root of what we do, I can't just tell you to go do it yourself, because you're, it's just not the same thing. So
Yeah.
that is the best example, because I struggled with this for almost a year, that I was like, I have to
Mm.
do this. And it was because everyone else was doing it. But if I just stayed in what in my own lane of what I'm doing, that would have been so much clearer to me sooner. And so I feel that, yeah, if you can go back to those principles and know exactly what your brand style is and what you stand for, there's no way that someone else can come in your way.
Yeah, and it just takes off so much pressure. Even in you explaining that thought process and the clarity, it just seems so much lighter and so much easier that you weren't like attacking yourself every day to try to do
Yeah.
this course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
If people want to reach out to you, I know you mentioned a couple apps, and I want to mention that
Mm.
you have a free download that gives everybody all the apps they basically need
Oh,
for a
yes.
business. What is
Yes,
that?
those are all in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called the Little Blush Book. of business secrets. And essentially, whether you're starting a business or you're in early stage of your personal brand, it's all the apps to help you run your business productively. And you can actually get that on our website. It's the first thing that pops up at saevilrow.co. And I'm sure
Very cool.
we'll link that
Yeah, and I'll
somewhere.
link it. And if
Yeah.
you're listening, you spell it Saevil. Okay.
Yeah.
And as well as your Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Instagram, Saevil Row.
There you go. Okay, perfect. So go reach out, Saevil Row, check out the little blush book. That's what it's called,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Hmm.
Get all your apps and reach out to Rachelle. Obviously, she's super approachable. Talk to her, see if this is a fit for you. And hopefully, even if you're doing DIY, you can take some of the concepts and principles we've been talking about today so that you can really solidify and gain a little bit more clarity in your brand so that you can connect with others. So thank you, Rachelle, so much. Do you have
Thank you
any
so much.
other message that you want to leave people with today?
Oh, I feel like because you asked it, I have to
No,
take that
I mean, you don't
opportunity.
have to. If you want, if anything comes to mind, go for it. If nothing comes to
Yeah.
mind, you've given a lot.
You know what? The only thing I have to say is trust within, because you already have all the answers. So if you're being called to offer a different service or create a new product, listen to that little intuitive voice of yours, because it's more powerful than you think.
Yeah, so perfect and aligns so well with the theme of the summit, one with self, one with
Yeah,
others. So thank
love
you
it.
for offering a different perspective and allowing us to take our purpose and helping to help us help others through brand and through our business and really helping small business. You're making such a difference and making so many people's dreams come true by allowing them to share their gift and their product with the world.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
And thanks so much for listening. I hope you find comfort in staying in your own lane and connecting with the truth of who you are, because you are so unique. And like Rachelle said, only you can do what you do. So know that you doing whatever you're doing is already unique and the world needs to see you. So go out there, be you, and thank you for being part of our community. Bye for now.